Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a truly special online event today. It's called The Deeper Purpose of Yoga Therapy with Gary Kraftsow. How to take charge of your healing and relieve pain, stress, and imbalance. My name is Stephen Dynam, the founder and CEO of the Shift Network. And for me, yoga has been a long-term blessing for just opening my body, healing, really making sure that my energy system is aligned. And I know that's true for so many people out there. And today we're going to have a chance to look into how we can go deeper with a yoga practice. So it's not just feeling better, but it's literally therapeutic, that you're healing your body, that you're realigning your system in a profound way that really optimizes yourself for well-being as well as longevity and all the other benefits that we might want to have. We're going to be exploring this with one of the pioneers in the West of this work. His name is Gary Kraftsow, as we mentioned, and he's taught for Shift quite a number of times now, and he invariably really opens up new horizons of understanding for us because he has deep roots in Indian systems of teaching and practice, and also really there's psychological sophistication from growing up in the West as well. He's the founder and director of the American Yoga Institute. And if you like what you hear today, we're going to have a brand new program with Gary called Self-Healing Through Yoga Therapy with Gary Kraftsow that we'll share more about towards the end of the hour. So with that said, Gary, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you, Stephen. It's always an honor to be in your presence and to present through your community. So I'm honored and happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about your journey, not just as a yogi, but really specifically with yoga therapy and why that really has become such a central part of your personal practice and your professional service.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. I began my journey in this lifetime with my yoga teachers back in the early 1970s. And I was a religious studies student, an undergraduate, and heading to a PhD in religious studies. And in the mid-1970s, my teacher said to me, "You're too young to study religion. You should become a doctor or study medicine." And I said, "Why should I do that?" And he said, "Because in the future, you're going to be bringing yoga therapy into the context of Western healthcare." That was in the 1970s. I didn't know really what he was talking about, but it was obviously prophetic. I did not go to medical school, in fact, although I did study anatomy and physiology and pathology, so I could honor his recommendation, but I continued my path in religious studies. But in fact, I've been instrumental in the establishment of IAYT, the definition of yoga therapy in the West, the minimum standards of education, the core competencies of a therapist, and actively training at his instruction, training yoga therapists since the mid to late 1980s. So it's been my work following his direction, like fulfilling the dharma that I received from my teacher is really yoga therapy. Although religious studies and the deeper inner teachings of yoga is my own deeper personal interest, my life work has really been sharing yoga therapy, teaching yoga, training yoga therapists, practicing as a one-on-one therapist, and also engaged in studies like with the National Institutes of Health, Aetna Insurance Company, and various universities to demonstrate the effectiveness of yoga therapy in working with certain conditions.
Mm. Well, it's remarkable that able to have the prophecy around that back in the 70s, and that you have indeed fulfilled that as a bridge from ancient yogic practices to yoga therapy in the West. So let's talk a little bit about what differentiates yoga therapy from regular yoga, first off, and then we can go into a little bit of like where the complementarities have emerged with Western healthcare.
Yeah, it's a very important discussion, actually. Like there's several things that we want to distinguish. Yoga from yoga therapy. What's the difference between yoga and yoga therapy? Then what's the difference between yoga therapy and Western healthcare? And it's a problematic issue from the yoga perspective, because there's a lot of yoga teachers who say, well, yoga is therapeutic. Even you said that and know that from your own experience. And so what's this yoga therapy? Does it really exist? And actually it does exist. It's a distinct tradition. But yoga therapy is a subset of yoga. Yoga and Ayurveda, both the tradition of Ayurvedic medicine, both grew out of the metaphysical foundation of a tradition called Sankhya. And So yoga and Ayurveda grew out of Sankhya, and yoga therapy emerged in the context of yoga and Ayurveda as a tradition of practice that has ancient practice and texts about it. So yoga is ultimately about self-realization, discovering one's true nature. God realization also is a way of thinking about it depending upon the particular theological orientation of the lineage maybe that you were initiated in. And that's what yoga is fundamentally about. And the path to that realization is mastering the mind. And so that's the ultimate goal of yoga. But yoga therapy, more like Ayurveda, has more specific and short-term goals, like, for example, managing back pain or healing back pain or neck tension, working with high blood pressure or asthma and emphysema, managing conditions like irritable bowel syndrome or more serious inflammatory bowel disease, managing conditions of anxiety and depression. So yoga therapy is designed to help individuals suffering from specific conditions either transform the condition altogether or manage the symptoms and improve function in the face of the reality of those conditions. So it's a subset of yoga, but it's a very distinct tradition with different skill sets for a therapist and a different ways of practicing for a practitioner.
And do you see this primarily working as a complement or parallel to Western healthcare, or does a lot of times you can actually supplant Western healthcare with a yoga therapy?
Well, that's an important question and one to answer properly so that we don't get into trouble also with Western healthcare. So in fact, yoga therapy is a complement. It used to be that in the old days when we were talking about alternative medicine, and that changed over the decades to complementary medicine, and even that has changed now to integrative medicine. So when you have a diagnosis of a condition, a Western therapist is trained to help you overcome that condition. A yoga therapist trains individuals what they can do through their own efforts to manage their condition. When it comes to a lot of structural problems, we can actually, to use the word cure, I've had more success with clients that years with chiropractic or physical therapy hasn't helped them. So in that case, but when we're talking about being diagnosed with disease processes, like, for example, some kind of cancer or some kind of, like I mentioned, emphysema or inflammatory bowel disease, our work is not to supplant Western therapists. Our work is to teach individuals what they can do through their own effort to help them manage their symptoms and improve their ability to function in the world in the face of those conditions. Now, I'll say one more thing. The proper field of yoga is the transformation of the mind, although many in the West think of it as asana is yoga and meditation something different. But actually, fundamentally, yoga is a tradition of meditation, and asana is preparation for that. In the same way, the proper field of yoga therapy is actually mental health. So we won't replace a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, but we do a lot of significant work with helping people transform their mental condition. So the answer is we're complementary to. In some cases and conditions, we can be more effective. And in many cases and conditions, we can just be a useful support for the individual who's undergoing care with a licensed healthcare practitioner to significantly improve their outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Are you seeing more and more traditional Western practitioners open to this kind of complementary sort of referring back and forth and working with yoga therapists?
Absolutely. In our base of graduates who have already gone through our full-on professional training, we have many, like close to 100 licensed healthcare practitioners have actually become certified in yoga therapy by me, including a few physicians and even psychiatrists, a lot of psychotherapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, social workers have done the training. And we have many graduates from our program who are actively engaged in clinics with medical practitioners in hospitals. And so it's more and more, there's more and more cooperation between yoga therapists and licensed healthcare providers because they recognize that they don't have time to help, and nor the training to help their patients learn what they can do on their own time to improve their condition. And that's our job.
Yeah, that self-empowerment is so important. Do you find a lot of people are also sort of trying to work upstream from when they have a sort of a chronic thing that needs to be treated? You're really sort of wanting to sort of work upstream when you start to sense some signals or things getting off in a certain direction?
I'm not sure. Could you clarify what you mean by work upstream? Like,
I
what's
mean, I was like,
a starting point?
before things get to an acute condition, basically.
Those who have enough sort of self-awareness to recognize something's off, when the sooner, with any kind of condition, the sooner that you become aware of it, the more quickly you can make changes. So I'm not sure I fully understood your
Yeah,
question.
I think that's the basic trajectory there. Yeah. So, and also I was just curious a little bit about how yoga might provide a different kind of diagnostic lens on what's going on that
Yeah.
is working with energetic systems and prana and things that aren't necessarily part of a lot of Western therapeutic modalities.
Yeah, I'll make a first a contextual comment because I've been involved with IAYT, International Association of Yoga Therapists, and the sort of moving forward of yoga therapy in the West. We have to be very careful about our language. So the idea of a controlled substance, the word diagnosis is a controlled substance. We don't have the license. So we tend to use the word assessing,
Okay.
like how we assess an individual's condition. And we train yoga therapists on assessment. And assessment is multidimensional. So structural assessment, physiological assessment, and psycho-emotional assessment. And we work with both Western language to explain how to assess a person's structural, physiological, or psycho-emotional condition. But then also especially in the physiological and psycho-emotional conditions, we also rely on models that derive from yoga therapy and Ayurveda, like similar models like doshas and pranas and pittas. So winds and fire and water, kapha. So there are 5 pranas, five pittas, and 5 kaphas. This is technical, so we train therapists in that. But we work with the language of the tradition that uses other models. Like we could say, for example, a condition of excess versus a condition of deficiency. We might say too much heat, so we need more Surya, or less Surya, we need more Chandra, moon, or not enough heat, we need more Surya, more fire. So we would use language and models that derive from the yoga therapy and Ayurvedic tradition to help a therapist link their observation or their assessment to practices that can help restore balance. It's the question you asked is technical. The answer is a little technical. I hope that wasn't too
No, it's
technical.
fascinating. What are some of the areas of conditions that yoga therapy has proved to be most efficacious as complementary?
Yeah, well, I can share just even from American Vinny Yoga Institute's own history of doing studies. We did the first National Institutes of Health study that was written up in the Annals of Internal Medicine. That was back in 2005 for managing back pain. So we have extraordinary success in long-term sufferers of back pain, neck and shoulder tension, a lot of structural conditions, and then pain management, which crosses from structure into physiology. We do a lot of good work with pain management. And then I did a study with Aetna Insurance Company that turned out to be, quote, statistically significant. It was also written up in journals, which we call the Vinny Yoga Stress Reduction Program. So managing stress, and every individual has some degree of stress. And stress is not only a causal factor in conditions, all kinds of conditions, but a complicating factor in healing conditions. And we've demonstrated using Western standards, evidence-based results on stress management. And then that can translate to helping people manage conditions of chronic high blood pressure, managing conditions of asthma and emphysema. And we have a study with a university on lung cancer, actually, with our work. And then also I did a study that started with Harvard called, which was on yoga therapy for generalized anxiety disorder. So there's a lot of now evidence that yoga therapy is complementary for managing anxiety and depression, a variety of physiological conditions, the root of which is managing stress, and then lots of structural conditions.
Really exciting that having that positive impact in so many different areas. I want to just ask a little bit about how, I'm assuming most people who are watching this have been to yoga class and probably many classes, but how might a yoga therapy session look different than a yoga class in terms of like the kinds of things you might go into?
So first, let me make a distinction between a one-on-one yoga therapy session and a therapeutic group. A lot of people in their experience of yoga, their experience of yoga is in group classes. And some individuals have taken private yoga classes. But the general distinction between a yoga class and a yoga therapy session, whether it's private or group, in a yoga class, you're taught asana, maybe pranayama, maybe meditation, but clearly mostly asana, and then maybe some pranayama. And the teacher has practices or postures they want you to learn and teach to practice. And they come into the room and they're teaching these asana one after the other. And in the yoga therapy session, it's not about the practices. It's about the needs of the practitioner in relation to their condition. So a yoga therapist would read, we'll talk about one-on-one session initially. Let's say it's a structural condition, read the body and understand what the problems are in that condition that they're suffering from, and then what postures can be adapted to help them access those parts of the body and increase circulation, release muscular contraction, restore symmetry, improve alignment. So it's focused on the individual and their condition, not on the postures and how to do them correctly.
Well, it kind of circles back with the self-empowerment theme, since as you're sharing earlier. So a lot of this is really is about taking the responsibility for your own body, mind, health, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's interesting because the truth about yoga therapy is that it's an ancient tradition with teachings and practices. In the West, we tend to like to make things up. So there's some yoga therapy that's known out there that has nothing to do with traditional yoga therapy. In traditional yoga therapy, the therapist isn't treating you. The therapist is helping you, and together design a program, a sequence of an intervention strategy that you can then apply and work with yourself on a daily basis. So all yoga therapy traditionally is practice-based. It's not something that happens between you. Something happens between you and the therapist, but the most important thing that happens is you're educated about what you can do on a regular basis to help you manage your own condition.
Yeah, it probably dovetails well with all the studies around like learned helplessness. And when we don't feel like we have any control over a condition or a disease, then we're much more likely to have worse outcomes. And so it gives you a sense of
And in fact, I've worked with people who have major problems, and the first thing that I do is help them feel better about something, even if it's not addressing their major problem. And that gives them a sense of self-confidence that they can influence their own condition through their own action. And that's what initiates the change. So it's that, like the word you used was empowering people, that they can do something to improve their own condition.
So before, when you're talking about some of the areas that it's really been particularly great for, just pain in general, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about how yoga therapy works with pain and sort of like gives you a sort of a broader toolkit than a lot of the Western modalities.
Yeah, well, pain is multidimensional. When I say multidimensional, you could, for example, have a pain that's rooted in some nerve impingement, or it could be a more neuropathic or like we call chronic or widespread pain related to a condition like fibromyalgia. But there can be a physiological impact, like if it's a structural pain, can have a physiological impact, and then a psycho-emotional impact. So it can cause anxiety, or even chronic pain can lead to depression. So pain is multidimensional. So when we work with pain, there's the objective pain signals, and then there's a subjective relationship to the pain. So depending upon the cause of the pain, we can actually reduce the pain itself objectively through a strategy, if it's structural pain, of contract release, increasing blood flow, what we call prana shakti, to the area. We can also strengthen the individual systems so that they have more tolerance to pain. So we increase their pain threshold. And then we can change their mental subjective relationship to the experience of pain. And then we can even give them tools to distract their attention away from the pain. So there isn't a single answer, because there are a lot of causes of pain, and there's different treatments that we would use depending upon the cause. But most importantly, we give people tools where the pain can be reduced or eliminated. We give them tools to do that. Where it can't be reduced or eliminated, we give them tools to manage the secondary symptoms that arise as a consequence of the chronic pain. And then we give them something to do to link their attention to something that gives them more sense of meaning and fulfillment, even in the face of pain that cannot be reduced.
Makes a lot of sense. Do you find that that it's good to sort of, if somebody's tracked onto the yoga therapy track because they're working with a specific condition, do they keep doing some of their kind of other daily yoga group classes, or is it sort of
That's an interesting question.
you really want to kind of prioritize the more specific empowered practices for your condition?
I mean, the answer, of course, unfortunately, is not unfortunately, but it depends. Because a lot of times what people don't realize is what they're doing habitually is, if not a causal, certainly a complicating factor in their problem. I've worked with countless hours, hundreds of hours with clients who what they think they're doing to help themselves is actually one of the major causes of their problems. So sometimes it's the yoga that they're doing that is the causal factor in their problem. Sometimes it's their diet. They think they're doing the best thing for themselves, but later find out that what they're eating, actually, they have an allergic reaction to, and it's a factor in their problem. So the answer is, if someone takes joy from doing something and we can test and make sure that it isn't a complicating factor in their healing, then we want them to continue it. But unfortunately, often it's what they're doing habitually that is, if not created, it reinforces their problem. And so sometimes we have to educate them over time gently to shift out of what they were doing habitually and replace it with something that's going to be more helpful for them.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, Gary, you're a fountain of so much wisdom on this subject, and I want to make some space and time for you to actually guide us in a demonstration so we can really see yoga therapy in action and understand how it can benefit us as well.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. So what I thought I would share with you is a very few, like 3 simple movements designed to help you feel more stable in your low back, and then some breathing designed to kind of balance sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous systems in the direction of more sympathetic sedation and parasympathetic engagement, more relaxation. And then a short little meditation practice that sort of helps you think about the multidimensionality of yourself and your commitment to working with yourself towards healing and integration. So if you're ready for that, I'm going to actually demonstrate a few things and have you do them with me. Is that okay, Stephen?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to step back here. Just give me a moment. And we're going to, now, if you can't go on your knees, then you can do this on a chair, putting your hands on your knees. Let me demonstrate what we're going to do. Just 3 movements. And actually, there's only 2, because we'll do this movement before and after the middle one. So I'm on my hands and knees. My hips are vertically, my knees are vertically below my hips, and my wrists are vertically below my shoulders. And I'm going to inhale and pull back on my hands and lift my chest. And then I'm going to exhale. And notice what I'm doing. I'm rounding my low back and lowering my chin and bending my elbows and bringing my forehead to the floor. So I'm just gently stretching my low back. And then I'm going to inhale, come forward. So if you're willing to do this, please come down to all fours, your hands and knees. Take a moment and see your wrists vertically below your shoulders, your knees vertically below your hips. Now inhale and pull back on your hands and lift your chest, look up a little bit. Now exhale, move the hips backwards, watch me, and then round your low back, lower your chin, and then don't watch me anymore, and bend your elbows and bring your forehead to the floor. This is not cat-cow. It's actually called Chakravakasana. Inhale, come forward again. And what you want to feel as you're going back here, as you round the low back and bend your elbows, is a gentle stretch, just like pulling right here where in your low back where my hands are. If you're doing it, you're not watching, but if you're watching, you'll get the idea. Inhale, come forward. And then exhale, move the hips backwards, round the low back, bend the elbows. And what we're doing is stretching the muscles of your low back. Do it one more time. We're going to come back to this in a moment. Exhale, move the hips backwards, round the low back, bend the elbows, forehead towards the floor. Just rest down for a moment. And then we'll lie on the stomach and we'll just keep our forearms on the floor and palms by our shoulders. And what we're going to do is those muscles we were stretching, now we're going to contract them. So inhale, I lift my chest towards the end of the inhale. I pull back on my hands like I was pushing my chest forward, lift my chin, and then exhale, come down. And at the end of the exhale, relax and feel those low back muscles that you were stretching now relaxing. And then when you inhale, come back up, you feel them contracting. So what we're doing now is contracting. Before we were stretching, those same muscles, exhale down. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale, come up, feel those low back muscles contracting and your glutes contract as you lift your chest. Exhale, go down. Notice I'm not pushing higher. I'm just using my back muscles at the bottom. I'm relaxing. 1 more time. Inhale, come up and feel those muscles contracting. And then exhale, go down and feel them relaxing at the end. Take a free breath. And then all we're going to do to keep it simple is push back up to all fours. So what we did was stretch those muscles, then contract them. Now we're going to stretch them again. And you'll learn what the Western physiology calls PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. We call it pratikriya in the ancient language. So as I exhale now, I move my hips backwards, round my low back, lower my chin. But what's going to happen as you bring your forehead to the floor is the low back feels different than it did before the back bend, before you contracted the muscles. As we do it, it'll take 2 or 3 times. Exhale, go back. And what you're going to feel in a moment is your low back is both looser and more stable. And that's called PNF. By contracting the muscles and then stretching them, we increase blood flow to the muscles and we strengthen and stabilize the low back. So we'll just do that 1 more time after this. You're repeating this about 4 to 6 times. And then go all the way back and just rest down, take a breath, feel the gentle stretching in your low back. And when you're ready, you're going to sit up. Now, I'm going to come back to the chair, but you can sit up comfortably on a chair or cross-legged on the floor. And I'm going to guide you in a short breathing exercise, pranayama exercise. Mm-hmm. Take a moment and just feel the energy that you created through that practice. And there's a time release to that simple exercise. Your low back will feel the effect of it going forward over the next couple of hours. So then we're going to sit up straight. And this is a very short practice, so there's more detail behind all of this, of course. And I'm going to guide you in a particular way of controlling the flow of inhale and exhale. We're going to start with inhale equal exhale. I'll guide every breath, and we'll progressively make the exhale longer. So wherever you are in your own breath cycle, just start to inhale fully and exhale fully. I'm going to guide you specifically in a moment. And as you're slowly deepening your inhale and lengthening your exhale, see if you can come to like maybe a 6-second inhale and a 6-second exhale, approximate. And use that soft glottal constriction called ujjayi that helps create a valve so that you can lengthen the flow of breath. It sounds something like this. I'm going to move my microphone. So that sound is created by a partial constriction of the vocal cords, the glottis. So just now I'm going to guide us. So wherever you are in your own breath cycle, we'll begin the next breath after this. So wherever you are in your own breath cycle, just inhale fully now. And now exhale fully, and we'll begin on this inhale. So inhale 6. And now exhale 6. And now inhale 6. And as you inhale, feel your chest expand and your belly relaxing. And now as you exhale 6, tighten your belly. Feel like you're bringing your belly in towards your spine. And then inhale 6. And now exhale 7. So make exhale a second longer. Pull the belly gently in towards your spine. And again, inhale 6. And exhale 7. Inhale 6. Now exhale 8. Inhale 6. Exhale 8. One more time, inhale 6. And exhale 9. And inhale 6. And exhale 9. And we'll try one last incremental increase. Inhale 6. And exhale 10. Stay at 9 if 10 is too much for you. And one last breath. Inhale 6. And now exhale 10. And now release the breath and just feel that effect of that lengthening of exhale. It's kind of calming your system, and come into a state of relaxed, mindful, present awareness. We won't have time to have you chant, but I'm going to do a chant, translate it, give you a short reflection, and we'll go through the multidimensionality of who we are, which is what we want to relate to when we're doing yoga therapy, all the different dimensions of ourselves. So your job in this is just to listen, hear, and comprehend what I'm saying, and then just reflect briefly on it. And this will only be a few minutes, okay? Om Annamaya Namaha. So this is invoking your full conscious presence. Annamaya refers to this physical body that you're in. Namaha means you're grateful for the gift of this body and you're committed to doing your best to care for it. So just think for a moment about this amazing structure you have. You have feet and legs that enable you to locomote, move around your world. You have hands, fingers, arms that enable you to lift, carry, function in the world. So think about the gift of your feet and legs, your hands and arms, and how they serve you in your life. Think about the strength of your back so that you can lift the things you need to. You can perform the functions that are necessary for you in your daily life. So think about the gift of this physical body and commit to doing your best to care for it. Om Pranamaya Namaha. So same meaning, in the presence of full conscious awareness, think about the gift of this physiology, this physical mechanism that enables you to breathe in air and take in oxygen that feeds your cells, to purify your body through your exhalation, to take in nutrients from your food, extract or absorb the nutrients and assimilate them and eliminate the wastes. The gift of this heart that has been beating since you were born and that will continue to circulate the blood, including oxygen and nutrients throughout your body. Think about the gift of your immune system that enables you to be in the context of pathogens, illnesses of others, and not get sick. or to having been sick to repair. Think about the mystery of the endocrine and nervous systems that keep everything functioning, and even the gift of your reproductive system that enables you to create new life. If you have children, you know what I mean. So just think about the gift of this physiological system, the mystery of it and the gift of it, and commit to doing your best to caring for it. With what you eat, with how you exercise, how you breathe, how you sleep. Om Mano Maya Namaha. This refers to the part of the mind that learns, gains knowledge and understanding from the world around. All the things that you've learned and understood that enable you then to make better choices, that enable you to discern the right from wrong and make better choices for yourself because of your knowledge and understanding. Think about the gift of that capacity to learn. And commit to caring for your mind and continuing to stimulate your interest so that you can learn through your whole life and continue to gain knowledge, new knowledge and understanding. Just two more. Om Vijnanamaya Namaha. This is referring to the part of us that holds our values and our priorities. So think about what's really important for you. What is it that you want to achieve in this life before you reach the end? Think about with clarity that you set a direction for your own future, and that those actions that you engage in, those choices you make, should be aligned with your own highest svadharma, your own highest life orientation, so that you can go through this life with a sense of meaning and fulfillment, and reach the end of this life with a sense of fulfillment and completion. And commit to assessing and reassessing your true values and priorities so that your choices can be aligned with those values and priorities. And then finally, Om Anandamaya Namaha. And this refers to the part of us that has the capacity to experience joy. And think about what are true sources of joy and nourishment or fulfillment for you. Not those superficial things that you think they're going to bring joy, but end up, you become attached to something or end up causing suffering. What are the true sources of joy and nourishment for you? And commit to focusing on those and letting those be the guiding light in your life. So just for a moment, think about the complexity of who you are and the multidimensionality of who you are. This journey of yoga therapy is the journey of exploring all these dimensions, gaining more knowledge and understanding about them, and committing to doing your best to caring for them as you move through this life. And then just take a moment to emerge from that inner space, and thank you for going on that short little journey with me.
Well, thank you. It's really clear what a comprehensive approach this is, that you're going to the deepest dimensions of meaning and joy, and how we sort of like give gratitude for the miracle of our bodies. And so this is really, it's a very multi-leveled approach.
Indeed it is. I used to joke with my clients who are training to be yoga therapists, we're a combination of a coach, a shrink, a doctor, a shrink, a therapist, and a priest. You know, it's a multi-dimensional work.
Yeah, it's sort of like when you say yoga therapy, it doesn't sound like you're getting all that coming in with that same package, but it really is like it's all the levels of your consciousness and body mind that are helping to reorient. Yeah.
And you know, the interesting thing, Stephen, is that I've worked with clients who have a structural problem that was a causal factor in a physiological condition and a psycho-emotional condition. And I have clients who have a psycho-emotional condition that was a causal factor in a physiological and ultimately a structural problem. So we have to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's what this science is.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one thing that's having to shift in Western science is the reductionistic model is just not very pretty. I mean, we're these things all interpenetrate on different levels, and so trying
That's
to
right.
keep something in
And
isolation.
the evolution of this dialogue in Western healthcare, the shift to integrative practice is a good indication that slowly we're waking up to it in the West.
Yeah. Would you like to share anything about just about the field itself? I mean, so you have professionals, so yoga therapists who that's all they do. Then there's a lot of other people who are using this as adjuncts for other, whether a yoga teacher or maybe share some of what you're seeing as how this work is permeating out there.
Yeah, and well, it's a mixed bag, of course, because what happened in the yoga profession is, especially after the pandemic, yoga it kind of went down. And then so yoga therapy was another way of making money. So a lot of people are jumping in without real understanding of the field. And we've just went through something organizationally, a Western healthcare, licensed Western healthcare provider, just like, medical doctors can practice acupuncture without going through real training, now they're also like, well, we'll have a special yoga therapy program for doctors, which means they're not really being trained as yoga therapists. So that's the negative side. The positive side is there's more and more recognition, especially amongst the younger medical students, that there's an integrated science that we need to understand. And only a medical practitioner can only go so far. And individuals need to become more independent in their own healthcare. And so there's a growing recognition across all fields of therapy, the importance of helping clients learn what they can do to manage their own condition. And that, to me, is a positive sign. I'm not sure if I was responding to what
No,
you
I
asked.
just get a little glimpse of how the field's evolving. So, and then that leads us to a natural segue to talk about your upcoming course, which is a great way to dive in and get some of the key principles and foundations of this work, and be able to start to apply those in our own lives and in ways, and potentially sort of lay foundations for something beyond as well. So we're very blessed that Gary's agreed to teach this brand new course for Shift. It's called Self-Healing Through Yoga Therapy with Gary Kraftsow, Therapeutic Tools to Restore Vibrant Health and Regulate Your Mind and Body. And it is actually a 12 module program. You can find it at restorewithyogatherapy.com, restorewithyogatherapy.com. Gary, I'd love for you to share in your own words some of the intentions you have for what people will come away with, and then we can give it
Yeah,
the three parts to the program.
sure. Well, my main intention is that people learn that they can be more independent in their own healthcare, and that if they're having more serious conditions, learn what they can do for themselves, in addition to what they're gaining from their Western licensed healthcare providers. So that the main tool is empowering people in what they can do through their own energy and effort to improve their own condition.
Great. Well, so there's three parts to the program. There's a part one, yoga therapy for the structures of the body, which has 4 different modules in it, but maybe share a little bit of the contours of part one, and then we
Yeah.
can go through the modules.
Yeah, and just overview, and then I know you'll do this, Stephen, but when I conceived of this course, I wanted to have a piece of each of the main dimensions of structure, physiology, and mental emotional. So the first one is for the physical structure. And what I wanted to do is to pick the areas that are most common problems for most people. Like the majority of people over 40 have experienced low back problems or neck and shoulder problems. Unfortunately, a lot of people have hip conditions and shoulder, problems. So the way I'm presenting the first 4 modules within the part 1 on structure is looking at low back and sacrum, and what are the principles and practices you can do to manage your own low back and sacrum. Then upper back, neck, and jaw, we put them together. Well, actually, after the first one is low back and sacrum, the next one is hips. What we can do to manage our hips. Hip replacement surgery is fantastic technology, but you should avoid it if you can. So there are things that you can do to maintain your hips all through a long life. So then upper back, neck, and jaw, and the big one is neck and jaw there. Upper back problems are less, but they're connected. So we'll go into upper back. And then the last one is the shoulders, what we can do to manage our shoulder condition, maintain a healthy structure or rehabilitate these structural areas if there's injury.
Great. So those are the 4 modules in the part 1 about the yoga therapy for the structures of the body. Then we go into part 2, yoga therapy for physiological conditions. You want to share the broad overview and then touch on the modules?
Yeah. So, with physiology, it's a little different. We can think, like I said, cure is a funny word, but we can think about really transforming so that we don't have a hip, shoulder, low back, problem. Although depending upon the nature of the rotator cuff injury or a disc herniation, we're managing the condition and improving its healing. But with physiology, we don't think about curing disease. We think about how an individual who's suffering from a disease can manage the symptoms of those diseases. And some diseases or some symptoms cross over many diseases. And then some diseases have specific or differing symptoms. And then the same disease in somebody can create one symptom and somebody else a different symptom. So what we're going to be focused on in the physiological component is symptom management. The first module will be on stress, which is a huge factor in all conditions, stress. So learning to manage stress. The second one will be about managing fatigue. And fatigue is a symptom of a lot of conditions, in addition to itself being a diagnosis like chronic fatigue syndrome. So stress is the first one, fatigue is the second one. The third one is really important for physical and mental health, which is sleep. And many of you know that you have challenges with sleep, and more research is available how important sleep is to longevity and overall health and well-being. And a lot of conditions besides specific conditions like that influence sleep, a lot of the symptom of many conditions is sleeplessness. So first module in this program is stress, second is fatigue, third is sleep, and then the fourth will be pain management, how we can work with pain of different sorts.
Covers a lot of the key bases right there because those all flow into and out of so many other conditions. So stress, fatigue, sleep, and pain all in part 2. Then in part 3, you're going to get into yoga therapy for mental and emotional support. And this is where we're dealing with the subtler levels of our being, but yoga's a long history of being able to work with these in very effective ways. So let's talk about some intentions for that segment.
So this is a little bit complicated because first of all, I said this earlier, the proper field of yoga therapy is really mental health. Mental health is a complex thing. And so the way I chose to organize these, the first two are kind of the polarity that we think of in Western healthcare and mental health, anxiety and depression. So although there's, for many people, it's not one or the other, there's a swing between anxiety and depression, but they represent a polarity also related to the polarity in our autonomic nervous system, where anxiety is related also to states of sympathetic activation and depression often as states of sympathetic suppression. So the first and second modules of the emotional section, mental emotional section, will be on anxiety and then on depression. And then, so when we think about our mental health, it influences our cognitive, the story we tell ourselves about ourselves, our changing feelings, and how they impact our physiology and our behavior or activity. So I wanted to do a module where we looked at behavioral modification. So the third module in this third part of the program, we focused on yoga therapy when working with behavioral modification, specifically working with addictive behavior. So the third one will be about addiction. And then the fourth one, I was debating because a lot of mental health was related to our deep samskaras. And that's a whole other kind of a course that we won't be doing now. So what I figured is a lot of people, as we get older, we find ourselves with chronic illness. And besides the specific details of the physiology related to those illnesses, there's a whole psycho-emotional component around living with chronic illness and finding a meaning and purpose in life in the face of that chronic illness. So the fourth module on mental health will be around living with chronic illness and how to find joy and sense of meaning and purpose in the face of even having chronic illness. So the four modules are anxiety, depression, working with behavioral modification and addiction, and then how to face, how to live life in the face of complicated diagnoses, chronic or even terminal or life-threatening illness.
Mm. What a great comprehensive foundation you're offering people here that can really apply the key principles of yoga therapy in so many different dimensions of our health and well-being. So really great offering, Gary. So I'll share a little bit more about it. Again, the whole program is laid out in more detail at restorewithyogatherapy.com, restorewithyogatherapy.com. So we've just described the 12 90-minute live sessions where Gary's really going to offer you the key transmissions, insights, and practices. You also have time to do interactive practices together as well as engage in Q&A time. You also get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts, which are super helpful to go back and study and highlight. There are weekly exercises for home. There's a community group to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll also see a number of extra bonuses that Gary's been generous in adding to this program. There's a PDF teaching called What's the Difference? Yoga Class versus Yoga Therapy. Want to share more about that PDF?
Yeah, that's an article I wrote long ago when IAYT was moving forward, and I actually gave a keynote on this at the first Sitar conference for the International Association of Yoga Therapists. What is the difference between a yoga teacher training program and a yoga therapist training program? And in fact, what's the difference between a yoga class and a yoga therapy session? So this really breaks it down so there's no confusion. Really what it is to become a yoga therapist and what it is like to go to a yoga therapist as opposed to being trained as a yoga teacher or to go to a yoga teacher for yoga practice.
Great. Then there's another PDF on what's the difference yoga teacher versus yoga therapist training programs.
Yeah, and I just sort of explained both together.
Yeah. And then I also want to draw attention. There's one final bonus that is a special bonus that comes if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. And this gives you a reason to go through the page, tune in with your own inner knowing. And if you choose to move forward today, then you're going to have an extra bonus for doing so. And this is called Dukkha Parampara. The six-spoked wheel of action and consequence is a video keynote that Gary's done, and I want to share more about that.
Yeah, I mean, dukkha parampara means the transmission of suffering that we experience from day to day, and then ultimately from lifetime to lifetime, right? The transmission of suffering. And it's the six-spoked wheel of action and consequences is the model, the symbol that's used in the tradition to explain how it is that we become entangled, identified and entangled in the world of name and form. That leads to, our experience of suffering in this life, and then metaphysically, they say, and causes our next birth. So the six-spoke wheel of action and consequences could be phrased, if I put more the Sanskrit, the six-spoke wheel of samsara. Samsara is that cycle of birth, life, death, rebirth. And this is really getting to the nuts and bolts of what keeps us entangled in the world of name and form, our attachment, our action to fulfill desire and so forth. So it really breaks down the mechanism by which we become entangled in the world of name and form and perpetuate our suffering from day to day, month to month, year to year, and ultimately from lifetime to lifetime. It's actually a profound and deep teaching.
I love that you're getting to the deepest root systems of suffering as part of this program. So that's the extra bonus you get if you sign up by midnight tonight. So this is clearly a very robust deep dive right at the leading edge of this discipline, and we've kept the investment very accessible for you. It's just 3 payments of $219, or you can save 10% when you pay in full up front with one payment of $597. The course is going to start July 1st and run Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. You can see from the testimonials on the page, just people raving about Gary, master teacher, illuminates the path with great intelligence. It's high praise and living yoga master. There's so many people who really rave about Gary's teaching and his mentorship of you as in your own path that you're really in very good hands. So you will be blessed, I'm quite sure, and you will get a powerful toolkit for the rest of your life that you can apply with yoga therapy. So again, it's all at restorewithyogatherapy.com. And it's a 12-week program, and you will get that special bonus if you sign up by midnight tonight, which is Dukkha Parampara and the six-spoked wheel of action and consequence. So, Gary, it's been a joy to be with you as always. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing your program?
Well, I want to again thank you and for the opportunity to share with your community. It's been an honor in the past, and I look forward to continuing that. And about all this work, um, you know, I wanted to say it's certainly bigger than me. I'm grateful for the praise, but really I've been fortunate that in my life that I have had contact with these illumined teachers. Um, and in spite of my own imperfections, I hope that I can effectively share this work and empower people to understand what they can do for themselves. It's a lifelong journey, and it's been that which has given my life meaning and purpose. And here I am, in my advanced into my 70s already, and I feel stable and happy and joyful and sleep well and have lots of energy, and I just feel so much gratitude to what I received in this tradition. And it's an honor to have the opportunity to share it with you all. Thank you.
Well, it's great to see what a living embodiment of these teachings you are. So thank you, Gary, for your wisdom. Thank you all for joining. Look forward to see many of you in your upcoming training with Gary. And again, it's all at restorewithyogatherapy.com, and you'll get that special bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thanks so much.